Hi everybody. So for this tutorial, we're gonna do an intro to Revit families, and so let's just jump into it. We have our beloved lever house models now, and we want to add, let's say, like some tables for a meeting room or a breakout room or something. So we're just gonna, for this tutorial, we're gonna make a round table that has some parametric qualities to it. So the first step whenever we're making a family is you're gonna basically, you'll always be starting from a template or working off an existing family. For this tutorial, we'll start from a family template. So I'll come here and I'm gonna just be making a round table. So I'm gonna start with the furniture template. Hit OK. Now the furniture template is one of the more basic ones. You basically kind of get these reference planes as a starting point, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing that it's hosted to or anything in this case. So we'll just get started. So the sort of first step whenever you're building a family is kind of understanding the reference planes you're going to make in order to sort of constrain your model. So for a table, some of the basic ones might be the length and width of a table, the height. So we're going to start with, I'm going to go to a front view and I'm going to set some reference planes for the height. Now, you should see, I don't know why this is acting a little funny, but you should see a level. Here it is. All right, not sure why that happened. So you should see this when you jump into an elevation view. So you have, this is your reference level object. Usually I actually like to pull that out a little bit. This way I can, if I'm referencing this plane, I can easily select it. Instead of selecting the level object. So we'll make a couple of planes to get started. So reference plane. And a reference plane is basically a plane in which you can work in it. So you can draw within a specific plane and dimension off of it and constrain things to it. And so after you make your plane, you'll have the option to click to name it. You don't always have to do this, but it's especially for the planes that are pretty critical to your family, it's good to name these. So I'll call this tabletop. And then copy that down. And I'll rename this table. Alright, so I got two reference planes now, and what I'll do is I'll dimension from the base to the tabletop, and that's going to be my table height. And then actually what I'll do is I'll dimension the top to the bottom, and you'll see what we'll do here in a second. So when you have a dimension, what you can do is you click on it and you can add a parameter to that. So you can do that by clicking this button here to create a parameter. So I'm going to call this table height. Leave it as a type parameter and dimension. And then this one, I will name it tabletop depth. I'll leave that as well. So now you'll see if I come here, I have these two parameters as dimension parameters, and I can change this to 3 foot, and it'll kind of move with the other plane, which is dimensioned off of it. Maybe I'll make this 2 inches, etc. Alright, so we got those 2 planes done. So let's draw our tabletop. So we'll go into a floor plan, and we'll just do a simple round table that's a sort of an extrusion for the tabletop. So whenever you start to draw a piece of geometry, you want to be conscious of what work plane you're in. So this work plane here, I'm going to draw in the table bottom work plane, and then I'll basically be extruding up from the table bottom. So I'll do that, and so now what I'm drawing in that work plane. And so I'm just going to, like I said, I'm going to do a round table, keep it simple, and then I'm going to add a dimension to this, which I will then create another parameter for. So simple enough. Hit OK. And I'm going to click on this dimension. I'm going to make this my table diameter. I'll leave that as a type parameter. Hit OK. Now my table diameter. Now if I come to the front view, you'll notice, oh, I have to finish this. So once I finish this, by default, it made the depth 1 foot. So I actually want to lock this depth to these reference planes. So right now, the bottom of it, because I worked in the work plane of the table bottom, it's kind of locked to that. So if I were to move that, it moves with it. So now I'm going to hit AL to align that top of that piece of geometry to my tabletop plane. And then once I do that, I'm going to hit lock. So whenever you're aligning geometry to a reference plane, you want to make sure that you lock it if you want it to move with it. All right, so I got that done. And now what I'll do is I'll make a little base. So actually what I'll do before I move into the plan view to start making a base, I'm going to create another reference plane for the top of the base. So I'm just going to copy that, move it down. Maybe I'll add another dimension, and this will just be, if I wanted, I can actually just, if I knew I always wanted this table base height to be 3 inches, I can basically set that and lock it. So this won't be a parameter, this will always just be kind of 3 inches. So now I'll go into my plan view again. I'll do create. Let's do a blend just to kind of look at a different tool. And I'll basically kind of make this like a truncated cone. So the base will be, before I start drawing, I've got to put my my work plane. So I'm going to say my work plane right now is the base of the base is going to be at the reference level. Hit OK. And then I'm going to have this be a circle. Hit OK. And then I'm going to add a dimension parameter here. And then I can select this, add a parameter, and I'll call it table base diameter. Hit OK. And now I'll go back to my modify, and I still need to do the top piece, the top shape. This is similar to like a loft in Rhino, I suppose. So I'll go to edit top. And I'm just going to do 1 inch radius. Let me try it again. All right. And if I knew that I didn't, I'll assign a diameter to this. And let's say I know this is always going to be 2 inches. I can, I can just leave it, actually, in this case. So I'll hit OK. And let's take a look at my front view and see what it did. All right, so now I have that truncated cone, and I'm actually going to align the top of that to this base, this plane that we made. So hit AL, align that, and lock it. All right, so now one thing I might want to do is have the sort of diameter base be dependent on the diameter of the tabletop. So the larger the tabletop you have, the larger the diameter base you'll have. So that gets us into formulas. So if I go back to types, you'll see there's a section here for formulas. So my table base diameter, I can make that dependent on the table diameter. So if I say table diameter divided by 2, seems about right. So if I change this to 6 foot, let's say, it should make this 3. Hit OK. So you'll see it adjusted there. All right, so the last part for my table base will be, I'm going to add an extrusion. Go back to my plan view, and I'll add one more extrusion to connect the two. And this will just be, and I'll draw this starting at the, what did I call it? Oh, I forgot to name it. That's why you name your work planes, your reference planes. So I'm going to come back to my front view real quick. I'm going to exit out of that. So it created this default name, which was why I was confused. So I'll call this table base top. Always name your reference planes. All right, cool. Now I'll go back to floor plan and create my extrusion. So I'll just I'll set my work plane to table base top. I'm going to draw a circle, and I'll adjust the parameters again here. So I'm going to align the top of that to that plane and lock it. So let's take a quick look in 3D view, see what this looks like. Alright, looks like a table. Cool. So now we can assign some materials to here. So when you select on a piece of geometry, you'll see in the browser, in the properties, you'll get the option to assign a material. And if you hit that little button there, we can add a material parameter. So let's call this tabletop material. And I'm going to make this an instance parameter so that people can change it at the project level. And we'll take a look at what that means in a second. Hit OK. Alright. And then I'm also going to do a base material. So if I select those two items, and I will add another parameter. I'll call it table base material. And I'll also make that an instance parameter and hit OK. Alright, so we got our two material options there. So now if I come into my family types, I have these material options. And if I wanted to set a default, I can do that. So if I wanted my table base material, let's go crazy. Let's do chrome. Steel chrome plated. Cool. I'm going to I like to check use render appearance so that when it's in a shaded view, it looks somewhat like the actual material. I'll hit OK. And then for my tabletop, I'm going to just do a wood top. So I'm just going to bring in the default wood. Hit OK. OK. And now my table has some materials on it. So let's take a quick look at, let's save this right now. And we'll go to, let's save it as round table. And sometimes with this, I like to make sure that this is, for my when I'm doing families, I don't need that many backups, so I'll just do one, so I'm saving space. Okay. So now let's load it into the project and see what it looks like. Let's go to here. All right, let's place our table. All right, so that's our table, and we'll see that if we click on it, things that we made into instance parameters, like the materials, are now, we can change that at the instance level. And then if we go into the type, we can change it, the table diameter and height and things like that at the type level. All right, cool. So let's go back to our family, and let's add some chairs around it. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to create a nested family right now. So this is going to become the host family, and we're going to nest a chair family into it. So we go to Insert, Load Family, and I'm just going to use one of the default pieces of furniture that Revit comes with. I'm going to use the Breuer chair. I'll hit OK. And go to Create Component. And so now I can place that there. And I'm not too concerned about the exact location right now because I'm going to create a parameter that controls that. And actually, before I start kind of controlling how this works within the family, I'm going to, just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to edit the family and show how we can get parameters that are in this family and access them through the host family. So let's say, in this case, we have the seat and back material. So let's just say, for instance, we wanted to make this parameter an instance parameter instead of a type parameter. I'm going to come here and edit that. I'm going to hit OK, hit OK. And then I'm going to do save as. And I'll just save that. Sure. All right. And then I'm going to load it into my project. I'm going to load it not into there, but into my table family. And I'm just going to click it, and then I'll delete it. So right now, this is my old one. I'm going to update it to the one with the instance parameter. And then I'm going to actually, just to keep it clean, I'm going to delete the original one. Okay, so we got that chair in there now. So now let's, we want to basically array the chair around this table. So we're going to create an array. That's this button here, or AR. And right now, so you'll see here, you could do a linear or a radial. So I want to do radial. I'm going to place the center here. And I'm going to do 360 so that it goes all the way around the table. And I'll hit enter. And then I'm going to add a diameter. Click that. I'll add a diameter dimension there. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is create another parameter for the diameter that controls how far away the seats are. So I'll just call this seat diameter. I'll leave it as a type. Okay. And actually what I want to do is I'm going to use my formulas again and have this be based on the table diameter. So I'm going to say table diameter plus 2. That seems about right. Apply. Yeah, it looks okay. I'll hit OK. So now, basically, as I change my table diameter, if I were to make this 4, and hit apply, the seats kind of move with it. So the other thing you can do with arrays is if I click on this circle now, I'll get this option here, and if I click down, it's kind of hidden. Go to add parameter here. This will allow me to control the number of times that chair gets arrayed. So I'm going to say seat count. And you'll notice that it kind of sort of forces me to use an integer. And then I can kind of group this wherever I want. I'll put it under identity data. I'll hit OK. And so now my seat count is 3. And I can, once again, I'll come here. If I scroll down, I'll see seat count down here. I might choose to move that up to the top just so it's more accessible and less kind of hidden in that family. And I think that what I'll do here is I'll make this, again, a parameter of the table diameter. So I'll say table diameter, and it'll be, let's say, I have like a 5-foot table. I probably want around 5 or 6 chairs. I'll just say divided. Actually, what I'm going to show you real quick is if I were to just do this, let's say I wanted to say if it's a 3-foot diameter table, I want 3 seats. I might think this will work, but it won't. It's going to give me an inconsistent units. So what I have to do, the reason that is because table diameter is in feet. and my seat count is just an integer, so I have to remove the units. So what I'll do here is I'll just divide it by 1 foot, hit apply, and so now my seats will be determined based on my table diameter. Alright, so I'll hit OK. Another thing I might want to do here is start to create some types. So I might have a 4 foot, I'll call it a 4 foot round table. And then I'll do a new one, I'll call it a 6 foot round table. Okay, and I'll change my table diameter to 6 feet, and that'll update all the other things that I have formulas for. I'll hit OK. And I guess the last thing I want to do is I want to make it so that the user can access the material of the seat at the project level. So if I click on the chair, you'll see here in the materials, if I come to here, I can add another material parameter. So I'll gotta add a material for, I'll just call it seat material, and I will make that an instance parameter. I'll hit OK. Okay, cool. And now let's just take a look at the 3D view to make sure everything looks right. So this all looks good except that terrible yellow chair. So I'm going to change the default material on that chair, for instance. So seat material, it's just a representative of the bamboo weave. Anyway, I'm going to change it to red, or what? Let's see if we have aluminized red. Sure, cool. Use render appearance. Whoops. Use render appearance. Okay. Apply. So now my default chair material is going to be red. Alright, so let's load this into the project now. I'm going to save it, load into project, put it into my lever house. Okay, I'm going to override the existing one. So there it is, my updated family, and let's go take a 3D look at it in 3D and see some of the things we have here. So we have, now I can change material of that seat. So if I wanted it to be blue or something, bring this in. Now I can access, what I'm doing here is I'm accessing the nested families material at the project parameter, at the project level rather. And then I can, you'll see here I have my different options, so my 4 foot and my 6 foot, and at the project level you can also create your own types. So if I were to go to edit type and say duplicate and do a 5 foot, hit 5 foot round table, that's what I'll name it, hit OK, and I'll change my diameter to 5 foot and hit OK. So now I just created a new type within the project that doesn't reflect in the family itself. Alright, we'll end it there. Like I said, this is just kind of to introduce some of the concepts that within families, and there's plenty of other sort of tutorials out there if you want to dig further into formulas and different types of parameters that you can sort of constrain within a family. So check those out, and I'm going to end it here. All right, thanks guys.